Back to Lars.
All right.
And you all can see behind me here the kind of work that Lars does. He is by profession a designer architect and comes from that wonderful Scandinavian background that leads to this kind of work. So without further ado, he's on.
All right. Thanks. I was real pleased when Chris asked if I could do a demo. He was really excited by this particular piece that I made. I brought in last one. It's a pine sphere, and it's got a base to hold it up. And I burned it, and then I made a funny opening on the top. I don't think circular openings on spheres look very good. In fact, I think they look kind of stupid. But so I saw somebody who made parallelogram openings about 10 years ago, and I like the way those look. And then I added these off-center turning lines around the outside. And so I've been doing this burn work for a year and a half. 2 years ago, Nick Cook did a demo with a burned rim. Can you turn that down?
Audio?
Yeah, you can turn it on yours.
I can turn it
There's
down.
a knob right here. Yeah.
It's down.
There's a knob.
I can tell it's wanting feedback.
Right.
So I saw Nick Cook do this rim about 2 years ago, and it was a bowl that looked sort of like this one. And it was ash, which this is. And I really liked the way he just did the rim. And he had a bevel, curved out rim. And I really liked it. And so I never liked this particular bowl of mine. If you look at the back, the rim is way too narrow. And I thought it was rather ugly, and it sat over in the corner for years. And then I saw him burn ash, and I said, "That's ash." And I really liked it. And so,
Could you do that again for the audio channel? We want to make sure.
I turned this big bowl of sweet gum, and it cracked. It got a huge crack. And I really liked the way the shape of the bowl, what it was doing, but it had this huge crack, and it really veered it out. I tried gluing it and clamping it, but you know how that goes. I should have thrown it in the fire. Well, I did throw it in the fire. Summer before last, we were up in the mountains, and at the house there's one of those big propane weed burners. It's a wand about this long, and I got a 20-pound tank of gas, and my 8-year-old son and I, we just and we had flames coming out of this thing.
So you went through 2 tanks?
Yeah, with 2 tanks. And we had a really good time burning this. I was surprised because this is sweet gum, and my general observations with burning wood is that very smooth grain woods do very badly. You need a big difference between the early growth and the late growth. So things like oak, ash, hickory will do well. But I would have thought that sweet gum kind of looks like maple. I would have thought it wouldn't do so well, but I like the way this one turned out. Here's an example of one that I don't like how it turned out. This was some smooth wood. I don't even know what it is, but I don't like it.
How do you hold those from the burn?
We're going to see that. Here's a piece of hickory. This was nice and round. I put these grooves in it, and then as I burned it, it seems each of these places between the grooves seems to have bumped up through the heating process. And you do get cracks. So anyway, there's a bunch of, and then a big pine tree fell down near my house. I grabbed some pine out. And this one is, the only finish on this is Beal wood, the Beal buffing system. So just wax and buff. And you can see the more coffee color. The others.
Did you turn that green or wet, or did you dry it somehow?
Not as green. In fact, it's probably still wet.
So your hands all black.
They get black. The finishes on these two is nothing more. I sandblasted both of these to get all the char off, and they were sort of a coffee with cream color, or the dark pieces of wood that Mike has back there. And then as soon as I touched them with tung oil, they turned black as can be. And you can see there's a little bit of light brown right in the middle here. But everywhere else it just turned jet black. Another finish that I've favored more recently on at least these two pieces I got an old wood stove from my aunt-in-law. She used it to hold her groceries while she unlocked her door. And so I needed a wood stove. She said, you can have it. So I had black stove polish. This stuff you get at your old-time hardware stores. And you put it on your wood stove. And it's got some kind of wax in it. So you put it on, it dries, and then you buff it like you buff your shoes with a brush. And it shines right up. So I use that for these two pieces.
Must have something like temperature.
No,
Always sanding.
there's no sanding. That's another great thing. Not a single piece of sand. Anyway, and then one day I had this little box that I didn't really care for much. And my son and I were out in the garage. We saw the torch. We saw the little box. It's got a nice crack in the middle to help me align a little bit. But this one I got black and metal, and this was really just an experiment. So anyway, I've been having a good time with this, and I was going to turn something tonight and then burn it a bit, and then if we have time, we'll get to a little bit of finishing. So there's going to be a little bit of magic in the middle of the break. So we're not going to do all those things. I've been turning pine lately, and pine is a horrible wood to turn. I can think of so many reasons you don't want to turn pine. The first is the pine tar, right? Does it ever come off? It gets all over your tools, all over your lathe bed. It rusts your lathe bed badly. The pine tar is horrible. And the wood I've been turning is wet. And it's running down my arms. When I'm turning this, I'm getting wet pine tar running down and dripping off my elbows. I stand to the side. I always stand to the side. Another reason I don't like it is it's generally pretty soft. It tears out. You can see on the back here where I've trimmed this down, it tears out pretty easily in the softwood. And then the other thing about the softwood is it's just not strong. If you're used to your maple, being able to have a little tenon out to your headstock, your tailstock, that's only an inch or a half inch thick. That'll just break with pine. It's too soft. You have to make things thicker. Another reason I don't like it is the dark grains are much harder than the light grains. So you're going in and you start hitting one of those hard grains and it'll start knocking your tool and you start getting very bumpy tool activity on there. There are more reasons. So why do I like it? Well, one of the reasons I don't like it is one of the reasons I do like it. The soft and hard between the late growth and the early growth burns out really nicely. And that's the main reason I like turning pine is that when you burn it, the grain really gets accentuated in a tactile way, not just a visual way. And I also think it's quite pretty. I know that pine is generally considered, it's just so common, right? It's common everywhere, at least in North America. It's probably common all through the Northern Hemisphere at least. So there's nowhere you can go where pine is unique. Whereas like the Norfolk Island pine from Florida, the guy who shows up at the woodturning symposium, it's trash in Florida. It's just utter trash. We don't have any. We'll pay big money for it. Or this guy, when I used to live in Colorado, that's where his shirt is from, the Denver Woodturning Club. There was a guy there, there's a weed tree there called Russian olive. And it's a horrible wood. It smells bad, it's really dusty. It's just, everything's wrong with it, except that it's not other places. So, you got two? Okay.
He can control it.
All right.
Just not.
He would go and get this trash Russian olive that people the Department of Natural Resources in Colorado wants to eradicate it because it's such a ferocious weed and it just grows everywhere. He would go to the dump and get Russian olive trees, cut it and put it on eBay. $6, $10 a blank. People elsewhere don't have it and they really liked it. And I can see why it can be quite pretty. Colorado, I really learned the value of wood because there isn't any. It's the prairie, there's grass. There are some trees in Denver that have been planted over the 100 years that Denver's been there. There's lodgepole pines, big fat pine trees up in the mountains. There's aspen. They're both horrible to turn. Although aspen does rot really nicely, so it makes really nice ornament clothes. Very beautiful ornament clothes, but the wood is really pulpy and it's not very good. And so there just isn't any wood there, so you have to buy everything. And so it's changed my view of how lucky we are here, where we have so many varieties of reasonably good wood to turn. And in fact, Frank is giving away holly because, I remember when people would kill for holly. So anyway, so this was in a tree this morning, or not in a tree, but it was, it was part of a log. It was just a log this morning. This tree, it came from behind my house. There's several hundred acres of woods, and I don't know it, but somebody does. And there was a down tree section that I went and got, which is this. And it was interesting because it was across a path, and we walk there all the time. And one day we get there, and there are 5 trees crossing the path, all on top of each other, all from different directions. A couple of pine trees, a sweet gum. And I look at this pile, and they all cross right on the trail. They come from different places, but they all hit the trail at the same place. And all I could think of was that whoever was standing there said, if God, may God strike me down. And 5 trees came down. And so I went and got this. This has been down about, I don't know, at least a year. But it's still very wet. It's just been lying there. I think that's another thing that I'm beginning to notice about pine is I don't think it cracks when it dries. It can stay whole and completely rot without ever cracking. So tonight what I want to turn is one of these sphere like the one over there. In fact, pretty much exactly like that one. And I started, I've already done part of the work of roughing this out, and hopefully and I have to rave about these again. These are number 2 bifocals, readers. You can get them at Packard's and Woodcraft. And this particular brand with these yellow nose guards is much nicer than the ones I bought at Fitch and Carver. They really feel good. The lenses are pretty clear. They're great for doing this close-up, far away stuff. Even if you have good eyes, which I don't anymore, but they're very comfortable and the lenses are very good. And so I really rave about them. And they're only about $6, right?
One word of warning though, if you're not used to wearing bifocals, my head planted into the tool rest, making an adjustment because of the difference in the bifocal angle.
All right, so I want to make a sphere. So the first thing I have to have is a square cylinder, where the height is the same as the diameter. And I forgot that this lathe has a number 3 Morse taper up here. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments and use this livestock. I brought my own. It's, what's it called, Terry? Is it Axminster? Is that the brand?
Yours?
Yeah. That's brand, right?
Yeah.
That's
the Axminster.
This is an Axminster, and it has, like the one way, it has several tips that you can put in here. I like this tip a lot. It's I have a drill bit that matches its size exactly, and so I can make little things that fit on. And this won't damage the wood. And I'd like to be using this later, but this end won't fit there. And if I talked to Alan, he could have brought me a number 2 to number 3 adapter, but we'll make do. All right. So my square here is a little bigger around than it is, I think. Well, we'll just trim it up because which way is which? That's the right way. It's a little wobbly. We'll true it up. And then go to town. I brought 2 cutting tools, or 2. And I was pretty nervous when I was driving this. But that's not even enough. I just need more. I think we'll keep on. All right.
Can't you just burn it round?
Burn it around. Yeah, so that's good. And a long time ago, Terry Brown told me about a way to mark off from starting from a square cylinder like this. Ways to mark this off without having to figure out any numbers to make it into first an 8-sided, an octagonal cylinder, I don't know what you call it. And then to make 16 sides as well. And the way you do it is, I became a nerdy mathematician for a little while, and I don't know if you can see it.
You can just pick a spot and stay there, we'll find it.
So what I want to do is cut these corners off. And I want to know how far in to go from the corner. So I went and did some little bit of trigonometry, and this further outline, if this is my diameter going down, this is how far in I have to cut. And so I just plunked this down, got my diameter. I brought along a purple Post-it because I'm going to have to come back to this later. I set that where it hits on the vertical line, and then I swing it around and bring it in, close it up. And that's how far I have to come in. And there was a pencil here somewhere. So I just bring it in from, oh, it's got a broken tip. Bring it in from the front and from the sides. And there's not a lot of room over here. I have to be a little creative.
Hey Lars, can you show that from this side again? I don't think we're
Yeah,
quite getting it.
I'll draw it.
This one,
Is there a pencil sharpener?
that works for you? Not sure.
So I'm gonna. So there's one line. I lost the other one. All right, let's see if we can get in here. All right, so all I have to do is cut off those 45s. And it's surprisingly easy to do. I don't ever bring out any measuring sticks or 45 degrees. The one thing I do often do is I look, this is usually to get this thing as flat as I can or parallel to, say, the bed, is I look across the top of the tool rest and I make it be exactly in line with the edge of the waves. And that way I know that the tool rest is exactly along the axis of the blade. All right, actually, I'm going to get sideways. And I'm just eyeballing the line from this line out here to this line over here. I'm just using my parting tool. Yeah, this is dripping. There's water running down between us.
Well, that's the next thing. It's cracked everywhere.
We should have put a drop cloth down and just put that.
When you start getting down about this far, I'll go a little more speed. You have to watch, and there's about a centimeter left up here, and there's about a centimeter left down here. You just want to make sure that they stay the same. a nice straight cut so you can just ride your hand along the tool rest and not have to do any motion. Just keep the tool the same orientation the whole time. And we're getting down there. And when you get down towards the center of the tree, the pine tree, thanks. And to that line, we're not quite there. When you get to the center is when you really start hitting the early and late growth, and you start getting these real bumps going across. It's an amazing thing that how different the wood is between the seasons. So down here is already done. Up here has got 2 millimeters. And so I'll dive in and then slowly come out and hope that I'm aiming the right way. I came out a little early, but all right, so that's our time. And whenever I do this, I always think that it's way too much wood to turn out. To make this into a sphere. One guy, do you know the Turner Don Dairy? He does real colorful stuff, very, very roundy, blobby, organic looking. He made the point that a lot of people, when they're turning a sphere, they turn the square, but then they'll have either, the tendons will either be angled down in, or they'll be angled out. It says never do that. Always make the parts that come out of your square cylinder square, because we've all seen those double-ended arrows. One's this way and one's this way, and they're the same length line, but they look different. If you give yourself funny angles, your eyes will do funny things. You won't think that things that are equal are not. You hear it knocking? It's going bam, 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 bam. And then switch to my lighter weight tool. It's kind of funny too, the tools I brought are the very first tools I ever bought. And I don't turn very much. This spindle gouge used to be, I don't know, 1.5 inches longer. It's kind of getting hard to get it in the jig. The jig wants to sit right where it comes out. So I have to sharpen it some other way. Alright, one last cut. I'm not going to mess up. Alright, so to me this looks like there's way too much cut off the corners and it's not going to be a sphere, but maybe you need a better something, better judgment. So now I come back to this thing, which is now still set for whatever that size was to cut off. And I come back to this figure again. And I've got this blue triangle, and I'm going to make it that width. I put the purple post-it, this is the post-it. I put it where my first diameter hit, and now I'm going to measure this blue width. When we were at the symposium, there was a guy turning spheres. He did everything, every which way from Tuesday with spheres. And he had one of those sphere cutters, right? And it has some pivot, and just and you get a sphere. And he's talking about all kinds of numbers and measurements, and I really don't want to think about math when I'm wood turning. So I try.
So you go to trigonometry?
I went and did it once, and now that thing goes up on the wall of my shop. I never deal with numbers again. And then what was funny, I brought a couple kids along, and we walked by. They saw Lyle Jameson sculptures. And they wondered, how do you make naked women on the lathe? What kind of lathe does he have? And so he was over at the vendors area, and so I took him over when we were walking by. I said, that's the man. And we go up, and he's got his sliding bar scheme with the laser pointing and the carbide cutters. And he invited these 14-year-olds I had with me to come up and cut. And they're cutting and diving into this bowl. And they both come away, that's cheating. That's just cheating. So, come on, that's it.
And he didn't burn anything either.
He didn't burn anything. That's the point.
Lars, you started with the diameter the first time. You measured the diameter in the triangle. What did you go?
Same thing. This is still the diameter for what I measured originally.
It's based on the original.
Still working with the diameter.
Yeah. And then there's two markings. And so now I'm going to come in from these edges. This isn't as crisp as the first because these aren't, the first ones were 90 degrees.
Just out of curiosity, on the first one you did, was it like a quarter of the diameter? I mean, if
Would you like to know the exact number?
I just question.
It is 0.29.
So it is something like a quarter of.
It's not a quarter. Don't use a quarter. Don't use a third.
It's like a cosine.
It's
Probably the golden mean.
it's the tangent of pi over 8.
Okay.
Divided by 2.
I remember that one.
I actually do use those all the time. My day job is I build the fastest computers in the world. And recently, the Japanese built a faster computer than ours, our company makes. And your elected officials do not like it. The fastest computer before the Japanese was in China. It happened to be made with parts that my company makes. And that was fine with the CEO of my company because he's from China. But it's not okay with a lot of people who feel like the United States should be number one. So shortly, about $50 million will be spent with my company to get you guys to be bragging that the United States has the fastest computer in the world.
Still didn't say IBM.
No, NVIDIA. We are mostly known for building graphics processors, things that put your color on the screen. But we decided there was enough computational powers in it that we forget about drawing stuff on the screen.
So where's the $50 million coming from?
Your pocket. Just like everything else the government does.
Hey Lars, can you make those a little darker?
Can I make
It's just hard for the camera to pick up on that time. There you go. That's a little easier, thanks.
I might have enough room here. Maybe not. Oh, it's just But that's my day job. It's a job. Even though I like it a lot, it's still a job is a job for a reason. All right. Thank you. I think I'm done with that. So this, you just do the same sort of thing. The angles are a little taller there. See how it's pushing my tool there, the hard ring? Bella likes to, when he's rough cutting his sphere, he likes to use like thirds, right? Who's gone and turned spheres as well?
He does quarters.
He does quarters, he takes a quarter off. It's close.
Usually not.
Right. He's playing wobbles too much. Alright, and then this one I'm just going to eyeball because it's too close quarters. Alright, so this, if I cut it off, if we cut it right down the middle, we have a 16-sided polygon. So twice as many sides as a stop sign. Yeah.
If you took, let's say, once you use the diameter, and you took a piece of cardboard and scribed your circle on it, and cut your circle out, would it be easier to put the marks that you're putting on like a story stick or be a story?
Maybe.
Piece of cardboard.
I don't usually make the marks when I'm at home. I just use these. I make the marks so you can see it.
Okay.
I usually just go zzz, zzz, zzz,
Right.
zzz, zzz.
Okay.
And it leaves a little bit of a dent. But I'm getting the diameter back because I didn't make a good enough mark over here. Where? All right. I made this embarrassing tool one Saturday afternoon. I was bored. I went and got a demolition blade from the saw blade area at Lowe's. It's $2.50. It had teeth all on this side, ground them up. This is hard. This part of the steel at least is hard. I don't know about the back of the steel. And then I just cut a slot in a silly little piece of wood. And I didn't even cut a straight slot, so that's the embarrassing part. But then I ground the back of it, and it makes a great standing polygon. And like I said, the pine is... Oh, I haven't finished. Gotta figure that out now. The last step before we part it off is just to round these corners off. And like anybody who turns spheres will tell you, the middle of each face is done. You want to go smoothly from the middle of this face to the middle of this face to the middle of this face to the middle of that face. And the same thing over here. And so I'll try and do that now. And this is where you have to be turning the tool to follow the curve. The hard grain really, it hits your tool and knocks it backwards. So you really have to plant your tool on the tool mill. So I cut those off. I brought up Japanese saw with a real thin groove.
What do we need to switch up instead?
Now. This is alright. I think I just got it to you. Alright. So this is not quite a sphere, but it's not bad for only going one axis. This is all a little sticking out a little too far over here.
Hey, Lars?
This is sticking out a little too far on this end. This end looks pretty good. So one of the things when I like making these just from scratch is I get a log that's about twice as long as I want the ball to be, and I make a jam chuck out of the other half. So this would be 1/2 the log, and the other half of the log would be the jam chuck, which just happens to be right here. So I made this, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. It was actually part of the log that made that sphere, but it's working with this just as well.
So it was green when you first used it?
Yeah,
So you're gonna what?
Oh.
You're gonna touch it up? Is it kind of a little?
we'll see. I used it today. So, yeah, there's always the debate about putting stuff in your chuck and tightening it on both sides. And if you ever look at the back of the chuck, it's not very hard to see. There's just a single piece of metal that depending on which side you stick it in. But since everybody says it, I always do it on both sides anyway. Can't hurt, can it? So it looks like it's turning pretty well. And now, I'm just going to jam this in. And at first I'm going to have it almost on the same axis that I had and turn these end knobs off. So I'm bringing this up. Not quite far enough out. And this is where you have to trust the bearings in your head. So I'm doing this mostly for safety, because this thing can go. And what happens when it comes out is it's spinning this way, right? But it falls that way, and then it comes shooting under the leg right at your feet. Since it's a sphere, it doesn't have any sharp edges, and so it's not too bad. But other things can be much worse. But now it can come off.
How do you know that, boy?
Who told that story about it? It was Al and Bad, they had an apprentice, and they had a 12-foot log that was diameter, and it goes way too fast, and the thing starts walking, and Alan Batty dives under the lathe, the whole log comes off, and it's running across the whole shop, and the poor apprentice, he's completely, beside himself with fear, and Alan Batty tells him to go get it because it went out the window. I'm on the second floor, so I'm sliding down the road. He tells him to go get it. The guy's like trying to get on the bus to go home. He goes, "Where are you going? You got to finish that line." Made him stay. But so now it's going to turn pretty well, and I'm just going to knock off those end parts. And it doesn't take much. It takes more than that. So the real goal is I want to turn this thing 90 degrees. And where I turned it the first time, boy, that was a good dent.
Try hitting the jam chuck instead, not up on the side.
That doesn't feel right.
Okay.
Hit the chuck.
Hit the chuck
Well, that
over here. Yep. And this one is very funny shaped. So I'm going to move it out of the frame. And I'll turn that one off. That's the one off. Here's a place where you can watch the shadow up here. You can see the high low part, low point. Right there's going to be nothing in the way, 50%, and then full. And you want it to make it go from 0 to full. So that grabbed most of this end off. And now I can work just a little bit on refining it. And the way, forget who taught us this. It might have been Stuart Daddy. Put the little, I'll show you. So now I'm gonna turn it so that I like to think of this thing like a globe. This is North Pole, South Pole. This is the equator. So I'll put the poles up and down instead of along the lathe axis.
Cup too deep.
It doesn't have to be too exact. And normally what I'd be using, instead of this big cone to push to keep this ball in, I made this little wooden rounded piece that goes on my live center because of my tailstop. And so this won't scar the wood at all, like the aluminum scarring. What's that?
golf ball works for me.
Golf ball. You got one in your trunk? You got one in your trunk? So this is what I thought was, I've always liked turning spheres, and I thought this was a pretty clever trick where you've got,
My golf ball has a hole for the live center,
yeah,
and then it's carved out on the other side, so it
It's a
kind of
cup.
has a rubber gripping
Yeah, yeah.
surface. Yeah.
yeah, works great. So the trick here is we had the axis this way and we turned it this way. And then I'm just going to make a little cut with my parting tool. And the goal is to make a little groove that's not quite touching everywhere. So it's touching here, it skips, touching here, up to there, skips, touching here. I'm going to make it a little bit tighter. And that's a little too deep. It touches everywhere. In fact, it goes below the surface area. That's all right. We have a torch, and a torch can fix almost every mistake. Okay, now, why do you do that? And the real reason is that now you turn it so the pole's still up and down, but you turn it so that circle that I just cut is along the lathe axis. And now all I have to do is cut the wood down to that circle because I know that's a perfect circle. And so you deliberately turn on 3 axes. You turn this way, you turn it this way, and then you turn it this way 90 degrees. And it gives you a good guideline.
Now, if you want an aid, you take that line, you put it in, put a pencil mark in it,
Oh yeah.
and it really stands out.
So we'll turn this a little bit. And I'm going to do half, and then I'll turn it around the half that's buried in the chuck. And like I said, it was under the surface everywhere, so I pretty much have to cut it away. This is really bouncy around.
Does the pine dull your tool really quickly? Because I swear, the cuts you're getting just tell me I want to go sharpen that tool.
I think so. I couldn't believe how my parting tool this morning, not my parting tool, my roughing tool, it just got so dull so fast. I'm like, but pine's soft.
But the tar.
Is it? I know that it seems like as it ages, you get that real pine oil, you know, like your elementary school janitor coming out with that pine oil. Your whole school would smell like it.
So if your dam chuck is just slightly off, this method will...
If you turn an or you turn an asymmetric initial cut, and that's the thing that I guess is hard for beginners who want to turn spheres. Somebody like Alan Batty says, turn an approximate sphere. And then he tells you how to go from there, right? And you watch a beginner turn an approximate sphere. It's not even an egg, right? It's longer than egg, or it's squishy, you know.
Or it's real small.
Or it's a pin cushion on one side and an egg on the other. So you put it sideways in a jam chuck and it's way over there. So that's why I really like this little measuring of you make it an octagon, you make it a 16-sided polygon, and it's fairly symmetric without a lot of your ability to control the tool accurately. I mean, who did we watch? Mark St. Leger on Sunday morning. He just went zzz, zzz, and he's so calm and cool. And then we just do this, and there it is, perfect ball. He rolls it, and. He had a little funny joke about that.
Didn't he have a little piece of plastic that he put on?
I got there halfway through it. So.
He had a cup chuck.
A cup chuck.
But he can do it, and so can Alan Batty. Alan Batty used to turn ivory billiard balls when you could turn ivory. And the ivory is under a lot of tension. He would say, you turn it maybe a 1/4 inch too big, set it on the shelf for a minute. Then you take a 16th off, set it on the shelf for a minute. Because it would move, it would become unround in each of those months because there's a lot of tension in the elephant's tusk. I'm going to leave that one and just do the other half.
I think it's Sorenberger that makes the caliper mark it out like you do on your corner.
Does it? You just measure the diameter and then it's got something on the other
It's got
side?
three different positions on it.
And so we'll just take this off. stuff. And I'm going to trim up the end with no top. And then we'll talk about what's next. All right, so the next step is to get all the insides out. When you burn things, the wood wants to move a lot. And if you have a lot of wood inside and the outside wants to shrink, you're going to get cracks. Because otherwise, I usually don't bother hollowing spheres. Like I said, I don't like a round hole in them. I think it looks bad. But in this case, we're going to be burning it, so you got to get rid of the insides. So then you get to it. Well, I like that.
Now, that is, first time he does a check,
That's right. And you use a wood hammer, right? Okay, so this is not a bad sphere. It could be a little better, but it's not too bad. So now there's an opportunity to make a decision. Oh my God. That's what I consider design is the art of making decisions. It's not good design, it's just design. You make choices the whole time you're doing stuff, and that is what is your design. I really want to when I burn this, I really want these North Pole areas to still be on the piece when it's done. I don't want to hollow right through the pith of the tree. And I like, can you see this line? Yeah, you can see it. There's that line.
Come in closer?
That's all right. So here's the Greenwich Meridian, right? Going across the pole. I want to have a hole that this is one edge, then 90 degrees on another edge, and then roughly 90 degrees to that, you have another edge. So I want to make a triangle. And so I'm going to hollow it over here in Greenland, or Iceland. And I'll draw some pictures on it. Actually. I brought a nice purple crayon. So I want one line to go like this, one line to go like this, and then another line. It's kind of hard because you're so used to latitude. I'm going to have a great circle instead of a latitude, so it's going to go more like this. And I want to put the hole right in the middle of that triangle. Roughly. So I'm going to use this to really push it into the jam pit. And then we're going to get rid of this. I need to do something else. I need to give myself a starting point for the drill bit. And then I'm going to drill, turn it down a little bit. And you know how deep you have to go because it's the same as its width. So go back to there. And because of the hard and soft wood, it always goes off center. You can never get pine to go straight. Especially if I'm going in at a diagonal, right? Alright. That's my depth. Turn it back up a little. And then a good number of years ago, sorry, I bought these tools from Al Bashan was making these tools. I think they're about the best Hollywood tools I've ever seen. I don't think he's making them more, but I was lucky enough to get them. He made a bunch for NC State, smaller ones for the wheelers. And so you don't want to take too big a bite here because it'll pull it right out of that can shop. That's all I'm going to do with that one. There's a second one to go with it. It has the bent notch. And sorry? Yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna I've turned it pretty much sideways and I'm gonna just dig in a little on the side here. And take a break now. While we're away, the elf will match with how the rest of the smooth.
I assumed that's what the magic was. Not that I was going to catch you.
Let's go back to that.
Switch.
Oh,
Now's the time to get raffle tickets, and now's the time to deal with Mike on wood.
It's a wind check. The tree had been in a storm and cracked internally. So you have this black line coming down here, another one down here. I'm not going to do anything else with this one. I'm afraid it'll become multiple parts. And I don't want it to. But, so here's one. Now, it's just like the other one. Bob asked me the question, why bother to tune it up since I'm going to burn it? Well, the thing that I told him was, I think some of these, there's a nice flat here, and I think that flat is going to stay through the burning. It's sort of surprising what stays and what goes. There on the big bowl over there, the sweet cone, you can see the tool marks where I cut it. I burned that thing like crazy, but the tool marks lasted.
Do you think it got compressed?
Something like that. The wood gets compressed and burnished, and it deflects the heat or doesn't absorb it. Anyway, so we're gonna burn this one at least a little bit now. Oh, we're supposed to. Your umbrella. Can you stand up and pull that vent? And the blade
I don't know what I'm looking at. Here?
behind the light.
You got it?
That one. And then there's one down here on the floor. And then go ask the guy to flip the switch. And can you open that door? I wanted to ask before I started burning. Usually I do this outside.
You need to turn the dust collector on, right?
Yeah, tell the guy at the desk to turn the dust collector on. I'm not worried about it. Usually I do this outside when I'm at home. And
You're good.
I just start burning it. And you can see the spring growth is burning much more quickly than the fall growth. And some people like to stop right there and have it, but I just want to keep going. And I wanted to pick on you guys. I've been called a pyromaniac more than once. And I'm not a maniac about it. I just like it.
times have you burned your hand?
Yeah, you can hold it on a stick. It's fun when you start getting flames. The knots, is there knots? No, no. I gotta do a knot frame. A knot, you put a flame on it, it starts oozing. And you get a nice the knots are quite a bit harder than the rest of it. So I just keep going around, and the soft screen is all torn up. I can see it quite clearly.
You had 3 of these ready. You could almost work your way down, and when you get to the third one, go back to the first one.
There's no reason to stop. I'm gonna do about a quarter of this, right? And then we'll go through the if you have decorations, the one smaller bowl on the front right there, it has those grooves. It's got sets of grooves, and one of the things that was hard to do was get the burn all the way down into the bottom of the grooves. Yeah, that one, it was hard to get the burn all the way down without burning the grooves off in the top part of the groove. And that's when I turned to my hand-friendly black stone polish. And a toothbrush. You can get those industrial toothbrush things, those hobby toothbrushes. You can get a pack of about 9 for $1, when the dollar store is $1 more. So this is not that exciting. I'll stop in a minute. I was talking to Terry about this last week, maybe, or at the symposium. And he gave me a hint that I could try now. I haven't done it before. So, instead of rubbing this off dry, it gets in your nose, it gets everywhere. You have black dust on every little sweat bead. It's amazing. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to dip it in water. And then rub it off. This is pretty rough steel wool. It's number 4, I think. It's been in my family for 100 years. And I actually put a little soap in this water to get it to break the surface tension so that it would wet the carbon. I had a feeling that the carbon would resist getting wet.
Trying to burn the center of the inside.
I let it do what it wants. That's gonna whistle. Yeah, I'm just.
You're done burning, right, Lars?
I was gonna. Yeah. All right. It's steaming, but so what I do is I do the whole ball and steel wool with the heavy duty steel wool. Burn it again, heavy duty steel wool, and then burn it once more, and then I go to the 4-0 wall.
Way to go, Wade.
And then the fight broke out.
And my camera and my critter.
Did you try to burn the inside or just die?
I do burn the inside. It makes it smoother. The pine is pretty torn up with those scrapers. And so if you get a little turbine going inside, you can burn farther down than you can reach, and it makes it much, much smoother. For the hollow forms, I've been pouring black gesso in. I water it down so it moves. The black gesso is kind of like gel when you get it. So I water it down and I put it inside. You probably remember this one when it came here last time. It had a different bottom, and you could see the white wood inside. And I fixed both those problems. So now you can't see anything anymore.
So your 3 treatments, 3 tons, 3 white balls.
Yeah.
Then what?
Well, it depends. This bowl I went straight to Beal Bucking, and that's how it came out. You can lean pretty hard on the steel wool. Red, white, and black. Normal feel. You can lean on it pretty hard with steel wool and get it so it's not black. It starts getting brown. Get down there and get all the black off. This one, I started with this one. Like I was saying, I couldn't get the black into the bottom of the grooves without, I was burning the grooves off. And I didn't want to lose them. And so I had just redone that stove and the polish was just sitting there. You're next. So I got a toothbrush and just went around. Black shoe polish, black leather dowel, black anything. But I had it, and then I put the cheap tongue oil in it. I think this one's gone. He says it's tongue oil. It's too cheap. This one, I don't think I did anything to it. It's just a burn. Maybe some oil. I don't really like that one very much. And then this one is just black steel polish. And then brush to both sides. You polish it. I feel like when I was a kid I had my black brushes. And it polished it up quite nicely. No. These 3 pieces back here are polished. That's sweet gum. It's ash. You know what that one is? This is hickory. This is hickory. Hickory gets, you swear, some people don't even think this is wood. It's just too hard. They think it's plastic. The burning tempers the wood. Ash is by far the best to burn. It just has this beautiful. It's just this beautiful wide hard grain, and then this real deep soft grain, and you just get this wonderful texture. People seem to really like to feel it.
Lars, what doesn't burn well that you've been through?
Maple, walnut, sweet gum, things that are very even grained. What I would do next with that is, if it gets distorted, you can keep it. If it gets distorted, when it's burned, I slam it right back in here. With the long way, it's going to get longer this way, right? The grain trees right here. So it's going to get skinnier this way and taller this way. I put it in this way again and take those tops off again because I really wanted a sphere. And so you burn it and distort it, read through it up, and then burn it just a little bit more, and it won't change shape very much then because it's already moved. And so you get a nice round sphere that's burned everywhere and it's not distorted.
Letting them sit in the shop for 6 months.
The burning moves it.
Still.
The burning is going to make the wood move.
You did it.
Oh yeah. And then, do I have 5 more minutes? The last thing I would do. No? The last thing I wanted to do, like I said earlier, was I want to get some embellishments about like that around the hole, and then once I have those, I'll cut out to the hole with some little saw blade. I've used a coping saw with no frame, just hold the coping saw with my little fingers, and of course got no pins, but I don't care, you only 6 minutes out. You could make a little jig with a jigsaw blade, you could Dremel, you could do a bunch of stuff just to remove that. And so I'll show you at least one of these ways that I want to get an embellishment on it. This is something that Frank likes to do and likes to get other people to do. I'm going to, actually I'll do this. I'm going to remove this jam chuck on one side. I'm going to tilt it out one notch of the teeth. And I want to mark it so I know that's what we're sticking in. And then, see how it's wobbling. And the part that's going to be closer is, I can't figure it out. Is it like, it's the part away from that. So I'm going to hope for the best.
It's right there next to the toolbox.
Thank you.
So you're just gonna put a detail that's
Yeah,
partially half around or something?
like this one.
Oh, yeah.
These lines. Lines start here and go to there, and instead of going all the way around. And you can, these are kind of curved. You do it closer to the equator where it's spinning, you'll get straighter lines. You do it more up here, you'll get more circular lines. That's another design choice you can make. So I'll put it. Yeah, that's gonna work. All right. And that's just gonna be a little simple groove. That's pretty good. And then I'll put two more, one on this side of that. Once you get them hollowed, you have this. So you can see these are forming. These are real straight because I did them on the equator. If I turned it out here and then turned them like this, they'd be more curved like the other ones. And then I would cut out right up next to that line, and have another set here and another set there, and get a triangular hole. And I think that looks better. The other thing I want to say about spheres is they can't sit on the table. They look bad if they're right there on a surface. You need to lift them up. You need to do something to get them off the table so they look like they're a heavenly body floating in space. They can't sit on the table. I don't think. They look good. And that may be because, once one of the design people tell me this, The fattest part should be in the top third or bottom third. Sphere, perfectly in the middle. What else? It's fun to do. My kids love helping me. I really like some of the results that I've got. I feel lucky that I'm not forced to make a single penny wood turning, so I can experiment with whatever I want. It doesn't matter how it turns out. I know that some people have more of a motivation to make something that's sellable. Not me. Sold 5 pieces in 15 years. It's a pretty low success rate. And when I do sell something, I always charge way more than I think it's worth, because if it sells, then I'll be happy with the money. And occasionally they hit. I'll sell a bowl for $300, and it goes, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna buy a new tool. So I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.